This is not a game of hide and seek. Stop waiting on somebody to come find you. Yo, what's up everybody? How you doing? This is your Coach Renz. First, I want to thank everybody who's a subscriber. If you're not a subscriber and you're finding me for the first time, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell icon too. That way you'll get notifications when things is going on, when I post new videos or I do a live broadcast. I want to thank all my patrons because you guys support this channel. And I appreciate your support. If you're not a patron, get on over there to patreon.com/Coach Renz and support the channel. Everybody on Facebook, come on over to YouTube, hit them like buttons. So, every day, it seems, or every other day, I don't want to exaggerate, seems like I run into or having a conversation with some young lady who is touting from biblical teachings, teachings in the church, and societal teachings of, I'm waiting to be found. I'm just waiting for my Boaz. I'm just trying to have one night with the king, or whatever it is that they say. I'm a Proverbs 31 woman. I'm looking for this, I'm looking for that. I gotta tell you, all these women talking about they're waiting to be found. Let's look at where these things come from. Now, originally, if you're westernized Christian of the Abrahamic religions, you're waiting to be found because of a couple of verses, a couple of things, a couple of ideas that come from different parts of your Bible. Let me tell you the first part. The first part of this idea comes from the idea of Cain. Yes, that's exactly right. Cain, the one who killed his brother Abel, the first murderer according to the Bible, the first murderer on the planet. The one who murdered and was not punished other than to have a mark placed upon him, and was told that if anybody else were to kill him, that they would be punished 70 times or 7 times over, or something like that. I think it's 7 times over. And I think one of his descendants put the 77 if he was murdered when he had 2 wives. But here's the thing. Let's think about that. Cain. And I can do a whole conversation about the fact that Cain killed his brother Abel, but his punishment was protection from God. That's a little strange. But we're not going to go there. Go in the comments if we want to talk about that at a later date. Say something about it in the comments. But here's the thing. Cain, he goes off. He finds a wife. We'll talk about where the wife comes from. Many people discuss that one. And people say that Adam and Eve had multiple children that are not mentioned. So, therefore, he stuck his sister. He married his sister. Incest. And then they'll say, well, incest wasn't outlawed till like Deuteronomy or Exodus or something like that. Needless to say, it's nasty no matter how you look at it. Needless to say, it's a bunch of inbred stuff going on. But where does that come from? That comes from the Sumerians of the Anunnaki. The only way you could be king is to come from the union of King An and his sister. So I'm not going to even be mad at him for even having that. But the idea of a woman waiting for a man. Cain left his mother and father and found himself a wife in the city. Why are you taking lessons from Cain? If that's where the beginning of it comes from, why are you taking lessons from the guy who murdered somebody, then lied about the murder, which I guess he got it from his parents since they liars as well, lied about the murder, and then asked for protection and was granted that protection? Sounds like a spoiled rich kid to me. That's what it sounds like. But these ladies are taking this cue from this guy who murdered. So the man is supposed to go off and find a wife. Where else can we find this? Well, we find it, and first I want to hit a couple of points, and then we want to get into the more cultural part of it. You also find it in the idea of Queen Esther. And Queen Esther, she goes, but she sacrificed her virginity, sacrificed her chastity, sacrificed falling in love to go spend one night with Xerxes. She spends an entire year with a eunuch, learning the ways. We know what kind of ways she was learning in order to spend this one night with the king. And if we are to believe that after spending one night with Xerxes, because Xerxes' wife had passed, and so he was looking for a new wife, and she wanted to, and of course the story is told about how she wanted to save the children of Israel, and that's why she was willing to sacrifice herself. And she boldly walked into, into the court where she knew she could have died, and we focus on those kinds of things. But what we rarely focus on is that she pretty much sold herself one night with the king. Give him a little, little taste, little sample, see what he's gonna have for, the rest of their lives. But she learned, she tracked, she studied the man, and then she went after the man. So can't get the waiting from her, because she just waited for her opportunity to spend one night with him, but she studied the man. So that's contradictory to it. But Queen Esther is a highly respectable woman as far as biblical readers and Torah Abrahamic readers are concerned. Let's just call it that, Abrahamic readers. You gotta go through each name. Then, who do we have next up the bat? We got Ruth. Got old Ruth. Now, have you guys seen my other video about Ruth, how Ruth and Naomi are gangsters? People talking about something, I'm waiting on my Boaz. Boaz ain't coming knocking on your door. Let's look at, even though you can go and look at my video about Ruth and Naomi and how gangster they were, and how Boaz was gangster, and you shouldn't really want to be Ruth and Boaz. Let's look at this for all the women who are saying that, oh, I'm waiting for my Boaz. What was Ruth doing? Was Ruth sitting in the house? No, Ruth was out in the field. She was minding her own business. She was doing her thing. She was trying to make ends meet. She wasn't out there. She wasn't out there she wasn't sitting at home. Nor was she out there at the clubs and all that either. Ruth was just trying to provide for her and Naomi. Now, what's the thing about that story? Is that after Boaz showed some interest, after he sugar daddied her a little bit, by leaving her a big old chaff of wheat, after he sugar daddied her, she snuck into the chafing floor, got all dolled up, prettied up, and laid herself at the bottom of his feet after he and I had a little drink. Then they spent all night together doing a little something. And then next thing you know, what's going on? Boaz not cooked up a scheme to trick the older elders out of their rightful choice of having Naomi and Ruth as his women. So he tricked them, gave him his left shoe and everything. So, sure, Ruth wasn't sitting around waiting. She was handling her business. She was just making life live. But then she got a little scandalous. Well, she was more naive and got played into the scandal of Naomi and Boaz. So you can be Ruth if you want to. Sure. Now, Proverbs 31:1, it's a great thing. Those are great attributes for any person to have. So I'm not even going to speak ill towards that. There's nothing ill about it. Actually, I'm not speaking ill about any of it. I'm just giving you the reality of it. So then what's the other part? What's another part? It's good for when a man finds a wife, he's found a good thing. Okay. Culturally, you guys are not understanding that at all. Culturally, and in today's culture, I want you to think about it in today's culture. I'm in this earthly plane, I'm a black man. So in this earthly plane as a black man, when I look at the black community, and you can find this in the Asian community and every other community, one of the ways that you can break down a community, one of the ways society breaks down, it stops flourishing, is when men are out having babies with multiple women and not making those women their wives. You got to remember, in their day, they had multiple wives. Only Western culture outlaws multiple wives because that's what Europeans wanted. But for the most part, most cultures around the world throughout history, men were allowed to have multiple wives. But when you have a man who is out there not having wives, but out having sex and popping babies in the village and the town, and mind you, if you had 300 people in a town, that was a big town. But you're out there popping babies with 3, 4, 5, 6 women. You're not marrying any of those women, and the value of a woman was equal to that of a mule or a goat, meaning that she had no value unless she produced a son. But here's a woman who's gotten pregnant by a man that's not her husband. She has no value, so the father has to keep that daughter to himself or have to pay a hefty price for another man to take his daughter because she had no value and she's been stained. So it is good for a man to find a wife so that men aren't wrecking the economy and wrecking the community by having a bunch of babies all over town and not taking care of the woman and the child. Therefore, it is good for a man to have a wife for the good of the community. Look at our communities today. Look at our communities today. We got single parent households all over the country. How well is the country doing? In communities where there are more single parent households than dual parent households. How well do those communities do? They don't. They don't do well. In the more affluent areas, they're more double parent households. In the less affluent areas, single parent households. Even our government systematically sets it up to make sure that those who are on the government's teat cannot have two parents in the house. Many of you already know that. They can't have two parents in the house. So, it is good for when a man finds a wife, he's found a good thing. It is not the good thing that the wife is the good thing. It's the good thing for the community. Is why a man needs to have a wife. Now, moving along. Solomon and Sheba. Solomon and Sheba is one of the relationships in the Abrahamic books that I actually like for the most part. Why? Because Sheba was her own queen. Sheba had all her own stuff. She didn't need nobody else. You couldn't sugar daddy her. You couldn't, like Boaz did. She wasn't there trying to save her people like Esther. She wasn't just some woman in the city that some murderer dude came up and married. She didn't need to be validated by a husband, and because her community didn't place women in that environment. So, Sheba heard about a man who was incredibly wise, heard about a man who was incredibly wealthy, heard about a man who was a great ruler of his kingdom. So she went to go meet him. She went to go meet him to figure out, how can I make my kingdom better? What can I learn from this man? She didn't come with the intent of trying to date this dude, marry this dude. She just wanted to get to know the man, learn from the man. So what she do? She put her caravans together, came on up, spent some time with Solomon, ended up falling in love. They ended up having some really good sex scenes, according to the Songs of Solomon. But eventually, she had to go back and rule her own kingdom. That is the only fault I find with that one. She left. She went back. She couldn't stay. She didn't stay. He didn't stay. They didn't merge. They didn't meet in the middle. That is my only fault with that relationship. And of course, we know after you have something as good as that, some good chocolate, Solomon lost his damn mind. Had about 300 wives and 700 concubines and started doing all kind of crazy stuff. Wound up being a wild man living in the woods. Some of you guys know what I'm talking about. Some of you women know what I'm talking about. Somebody done laid it down on you mentally and physically and spiritually. And then when they left you, it broke you. It broke you good. Had you just out there just doing crazy stuff. You don't even know what you was doing. But, so, let's think about this. I'm waiting to be found. You're talking about something from a culture that did not value the woman. We're not in that culture anymore. True, women do not have the same value in the workplace. Women do not get the same respect as men. We still have a ways to go. But a woman is not validated by a man. You're not validated by whether or not you can produce sons. If there are things that you enjoy doing and you want to have a mate who enjoys them, he's not going to come to your door, put his resume, under your door so you can read it, and then say, hey, this is me. And, I hang out at the High Museum. I go to these jazz events. I love cinema. I love live concerts. I like taking walks through the park. You're not going to find that guy just come and slide it in your mailbox up under your door. It's not going to happen. Waiting to be found. You got to be out where you enjoy doing things. Go to the place where you enjoy. If you like poetry, go to poetry events. Guess who's there? Guys who like poetry. If you like football and you go to a football events at bars or restaurants, you go to tailgating, or you go to the games itself, guess who's there? Other guys who like football. Whatever it is that you like doing, however you see yourself spending your days with your mate, go and be present in those areas. But when you're there, be like Sheba. Be there to enjoy yourself. Be there to have fun yourself. Be there to walk away and say, I had a good time with myself. Don't go there with the expectation that the only way you can have fun is if you meet someone and you can have a good time with that person. Have the expectation of meeting people, sure. But the only way you can have fun, no. I can go to a movie by my dang self and have a good time. I can go to a sports bar by my damn self and have a good time. I can go to the High Museum of here in Atlanta on the third Friday of the month with Jazz and have a good time by my dang self. I was just remarking recently how I used to go to this cigar bar every now and then, and it didn't matter if I talked to people, hung out with people. It didn't matter if the people that I know were there. I go there and I have a good old relaxing, mind contemplative time by my dang self. Didn't really matter to me. But was it more enjoyable if I took a friend with me? Was it more enjoyable if when I got there, some of the guys that I like were there, some of the people that I like were there? Was it more enjoyable that if I, enjoyed watching the game with other people out there? Of course it's more enjoyable. Do I have that expectation of meeting people, talking to people? Of course, I do that every day. I expect to meet people, talk to people, have a good time every day. But if I don't meet anybody today, if I don't talk to anybody today, do I still have a good day, a good time? Yes, I do. And you have to go out being of that mindset, thinking that regardless of what happens, I'm going to have a great time with myself. It's kind of like that thing I saw last week. Are you the kind of person that you will marry? If you're not, you need to work on that person. Go out and enjoy yourself. Stop waiting for somebody to find you. Nobody's going to find you. And the young lady who had came by my store, and she looked so sad, and you can hear the pain in her heart, and you can hear but you also hear that she truly, truly wants to be with someone. She truly, truly wants to be in love. She wants to have that person, as she said, walk along the river with her. She wants it. She desires it. But she sits in her house all day. And her getting out was to come here to Atlanta. She's not from here. She drove 4 hours just to get out. But yet, she doesn't want to have a long distance relationship. So why is your get out place here? That makes no sense. Your get out place needs to be in the area that you're in, since you don't want to have a long distance relationship. But for all these people who are saying, I'm waiting for my Boaz, I'm waiting to be found, stop. Because no one's going to find you. You're not going to be found. And I know some of you are going to say, well, I was found. No, you weren't. No, you weren't. You made yourself available in an area, in a place, in a way that allowed for you to have a meeting with someone else who had made themselves available, make themselves, in a place where they happen to have met someone. And that someone happened to be you. Nobody walked. To be found means you had to be hiding. You have to be hiding in order to be found. So unless you were hiding and somebody found you hiding, somebody walked into your house and found you hiding in your house, somebody came up to your job and found you hiding at your job, you're sectioned off in your little cubicle, you slide out the back door, you go down the steps, whatever, and they happen to track you down, finding someone is to track them down. So unless somebody tracked you down, nobody found you. You found each other. Some of y'all ain't gonna like this message. It's alright. But I know a lot of women are going to be free after hearing this message. A lot of women are going to be free after hearing this message. Because a lot of you are going to start going out and enjoying yourself. There's a young lady on my Facebook, and I didn't speak to her before I did this video. But I've been watching her recently. And I'm sure I can say her name and she'd be fine with it. But I'm not. But she's gonna know who I'm talking about in just a second. This young lady, over the last year, I've seen her change. I've seen her metamorphose. I've seen her become a beautiful butterfly. She was already beautiful in the beginning, but I've seen her come into a knowing of her beauty over the last 12 months. She's become vegan. She's losing weight. She's been exercising. She's feeling good and healthy about herself. She's been traveling, whether she has somebody to go with her or not. She's been enjoying her travels. She's been going out and exploring her town, her side of the country. She's been enjoying and just doing whatever that gives her joy and pleasure. And she's been having a really, really good time. I'm so glad that she's documented all of this, on her Facebook page. But I admire the fact that she's not waiting on someone. Now, she does desire to have a deep, loving relationship, but she's not waiting on someone to find her before she found herself. She's not waiting to enjoy life before she started enjoying that life herself. And I guarantee that in her journeys, she has met people who share her journey. And she has been having a wonderful time. And I've had a wonderful time just watching. It's been beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. It really is. So even though I know I can say her name, I'm not. But if you know, I know who you are. You know. And if you say something, I will express in the comments. You know, if you say something that you know that's me. And actually, now that I think about it, there's 3 or 4 people that will act. 3 or 4, maybe 5 people that will actually qualify in the same way. There are more that will. But hey. Guys, if you got to go and break down the door to find a woman, I don't think I would want that recluse woman myself. If you like that, go right ahead. But if you recluse, she recluse, how y'all gonna find each other? Y'all gonna go to like a meeting for recluse people and nobody shows up because y'all all recluse? I'm sorry, that was corny. But hey, y'all have a great day. Remember, you got to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable.